Looks like we are recording and ready to go.
All right. Thank you, Troy. Clerk ready? All right. Folks, welcome to the Tuesday, December 10th, 2024, Lincoln Station Local Improvement District number 0701. We are coming to order. And please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, turning to the county attorney for certification of the agenda.
Yes, sir. The county attorney has reviewed all items on the agenda, and you have appropriate jurisdiction over these matters.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner, any disclosures for items on this agenda?
I have none, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, nor do I. Turning to our consent agenda, we have one item upon it. How would the board like to proceed with the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I will second. There's a motion and a second on the consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Consent agenda is approved. All right, turning to our first item in the regular agenda, a resolution summarizing revenues and expenditures and adopting a budget for the Douglas County Local Improvement District number 0701, Lincoln Station for the fiscal year beginning on the first day of January 2025 and ending the last day of December 2025. Martha Marshall, Director of Budget, Douglas County, Colorado.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Martha Marshall for Budget Staff. We are here this afternoon to go ahead and adopt a budget for Lincoln Station and also appropriate funding for that. You have two resolutions on your agenda today. The first one, which is what you just read, will adopt the budget. The second one will appropriate spending for that budget. I have no presentation, so if we just want to go through the resolutions, that would be great.
All right, thank you, Martha. Any questions from the board for our budget director?
No, thank you, Martha, and thank you, Kim. No questions?
I have no questions, Martha. At this time, we'll turn to public comment. Is there anyone who'd like to give public comment on this resolution? Seeing none in the room. Troy, do we have anyone online who'd like to give public comment on this resolution?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no online comment.
All right. Thank you, Troy. Bringing it back to the board, how would we like to dispose with this resolution?
If it pleases the board, I have a motion to approve a resolution summarizing revenues and expenditures and adopting a budget for the Douglas County Local Improvement District number 07-01, Lincoln Station for the fiscal year beginning on the first day of January 2025 and ending the last day of December 2025.
Thank you, Commissioner. I will be happy to second.
Excuse me.
Any discussion? With no discussion, there's a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the resolution passes. Martha, I'm told that you have the second item.
So the next resolution on your agenda is the resolution that is appropriating funding for the budget that you just adopted.
All right. Thank you, Martha. Any questions for Martha? No, with no questions, I'll open the floor for any public comment on this resolution. Seeing none in the room. Troy, turning to you, is there anyone online to make remote testimony on this resolution?
And no online comments, sir.
Thank you, Troy. Returning it back to the board, how would we like to proceed?
If it pleases the board, I'll make a motion to approve a resolution appropriating funds for the Douglas County Local Improvement District number 07-01, Lincoln Station for the fiscal year 2025.
Thank you, Commissioner. I will second. Any discussion? We do have a motion and a second on this resolution. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And resolution is adopted. All right. That concludes our items for the Lincoln Station Local Improvement District number 0701. We are adjourned. Now, we're going to do a quick turnaround, though, and go straight into the Woodmore Mountain General Improvement District, and we will come to order. Turning to the county attorney for this certification of this agenda.
Yes, sir. The county attorney's office has reviewed the items on this agenda as well, and you do have appropriate jurisdiction over these matters.
Thank you, Counselor. And Commissioner, do we have any disclosures to make on this agenda?
I have none, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Very good, nor do I. We do have a consent agenda for Woodmore Mountain. How would the board like to proceed with the consent agenda?
If it pleases the board, I have a motion to approve the requests in item A of the consent agenda.
Thank you. I will second. There's a motion and a second. Any need for discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Consent agenda for Woodmore Mountain is approved. Regular item, we have resolution summarizing revenues and expenditures and adopting a budget for the Douglas County Woodmore Mountain General Improvement District for the fiscal year beginning on the first day of January 2025 and ending on the last day of December 2025. Once again, Martha Marshall, Budget Director.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Martha Marshall for Budget Staff. You have 3 resolutions before you this morning, or this afternoon, to go ahead and adopt a budget for Woodmore Mountain General Improvement District. The first, as I say, is to adopt. The second will be to appropriate funding for that budget. And the third will be to levy mills that will support the budget and the appropriation. I have no presentation.
Very good. Thank you, Martha. Any questions from the board for Martha?
I have none.
I have none either. So at this time, I'd like to open the floor for any public comment for each of these 3 budgetary items for Woodmore Mountain Improvement District. Is there anyone at this time that would like to come forward and give public comment on any one of these 3 resolutions? Seeing none in the room, turning to Troy. Troy, do we have anyone online for any remote testimony?
I have no online comment.
All right, thank you, Troy. Commissioner, how would we like to dispose of these 3 resolutions, beginning with item A, 3A?
Chair, if it pleases the board, I have a motion to approve a resolution summarizing revenues and expenditures and adopting a budget for the Douglas County Woodmore Mountain General Improvement District for the fiscal year beginning on the first day of January 2025 and ending on the last day of December 2025.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner. I will second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the resolution is approved. Would we like to, how would we like to dispose with item B?
If it pleases the board, I have a motion to approve a resolution appropriating funds for the Douglas County Woodmore Mountain General Improvement District for the fiscal year 2025.
I will second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the resolution is adopted. Item 3C, Commissioner.
And finally, if it pleases the board, I do have a motion to approve a resolution levying general property taxes for the year 2024 to help defray the cost for the Douglas County Woodmore Mountain General Improvement District for the 2025 fiscal year.
Thank you, Commissioner. I will second. Any discussion? There's a motion second. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And the resolution is also adopted. This concludes our work this year on the Woodmore Mountain General Improvement District, and we are adjourned. Okay, moving on to what everybody came for. Let's call to order the Douglas County land use meeting and public hearing for Tuesday, December 2nd, 2024. Let us all come to order, please. And turning to the county attorney for certification of the agenda.
Yes, sir. The county attorney's office reviewed all items on the agenda. You have appropriate jurisdiction over these matters, and where necessary, appropriate posting has been made.
Thank you, Counselor. Commissioner, do we have any disclosures for any items on this agenda?
I have none. Thank you.
Nor do I. Thank you. Okay, getting right into our land use meeting agenda items. Our first item for consideration is Castle Pines Village, filing 14A, Second Amendment, Final Plat, Project File SB 2024-034. And let me get my act together up here. Okay, Trevor Bedford, Senior Planner for staff.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Trevor Bedford, representing Planning Services. The project before you is Castle Pines Village Filing 14A, Second Amendment, project file number SB 2024-034. I will also be presenting the corresponding subdivision improvements agreement, intergovernmental agreement, otherwise known as the SIA-IGA. Daniel Madison with Manhard Consulting is the project representative, and Castle Pines Summit LLC is the owner. The request is for approval of a final plat consisting of 17 single-family residential lots and a private road on 7.95 acres within the Castle Pines Village Plan Development, and for the approval of the associated SIA-IGA. The intent of the final plat process is to provide for the review of the final engineering plans, the subdivision improvements agreement, public dedications, and other legal agreements. The final plat process begins with the submittal of an application. Following a review period by the referral agencies and the public, the acceptance of engineered plans, the request is considered by the board at a public hearing. Referral comments received are attached to the staff report. Referral comments were standard in nature and have been addressed by the applicant. No comments were received from the public. This map shows the general location of the project. It is in the north central portion of the county within the Castle Pines Village Plan Development. The site outlined in red is located within the Castle Pines Village Plan Development, northwest of the intersection of Golden Bear Lane and Country Club Drive. This is another aerial photograph showing the location of the project. This map shows the project's location in the comprehensive master plan. This project is located within the Castle Pines separated urban area. This slide provides background on the site's various land use approvals. The Castle Pines Plan Development was approved in 1984, and the community is nearing its anticipated build-out with approximately 1,900 platted lots. The project is located on Superblock lot number 623A within planning area R20. The proposed density within planning area R20 is less than the density allowed by the PD documents. The preliminary plan for this final plat request was approved by the Board of County Commissioners on May 14th, 2024 at that public hearing. The final plat conforms to the approved preliminary plan. This exhibit shows the proposed subdivision designed per the PD alternative standards for clustered design. A private roadway, Trinity Peak Point, is proposed off of Golden Bear Lane to provide access to all lots. The private roadway will be owned by the Castle Pines Home Association and maintained by the Castle Pines Metro District via a separate agreement. Drainage and utility easements are generally proposed along the roadways. The county will accept general purpose utility easements and secondary drainage easements. The preliminary plan had proposed a 20-foot wide tract between lots 1 and 2 that would be dedicated to the Castle Pines Homes Association for drainage purposes. This has been modified to a 20-foot wide drainage easement in the same location that will be dedicated to the Castle Pines Metro District for drainage. This is a view of the site to the west from Golden Bear Lane, approximately where the intersection is planned for Trinity Peak Point. This photo is from the same location, facing more northwest. These are the approval standards applicable to a final plat. A detailed assessment of the project's compliance with all standards is included in the staff report. All engineering plans, studies, and reports have been reviewed and approved by engineering. The subdivision improvements agreement has also been reviewed and approved. The staff has evaluated the final plat request in accordance with Article 5 of the subdivision resolution and has the proposed conditions to be considered for inclusion in the motion. Condition number 1, prior to final action on the final plat, the board shall approve the corresponding SIA-IGA. Condition number 2, during construction activity within the development, the applicant, its successors and assigns shall conduct a burrowing owl study if any earth moving will take place between March 15th and October 31st. Condition number 3, during construction activity within the development, the applicant, its successors, and assigns shall take all reasonable care to watch for historic resources, paleontological resources, and other historic resources, and shall immediately notify Douglas County and complete appropriate Colorado Office of Archaeology and Historic Preservation data management forms in the event of such a discovery. Condition number 4, Colorado Parks and Wildlife literature shall be made available to both prospective homeowners and homebuyers regarding the existence of wildlife in the area and how to minimize conflicts. Condition number 5, prior to recordation of the final plat, technical corrections to the final plat exhibit shall be made by Douglas to the satisfaction of Douglas County. And condition number 6, all commitments and promises made by the applicant or the applicant's representative during the public meeting and/or agreed to in writing and included in the public record have been relied upon by the Board of County Commissioners in approving the application. Therefore, such approval is conditioned upon the applicant's full satisfaction of all such commitments and promises. Section 504.06 of the subdivision resolution sets forth the parameters for the board's determination on final plat requests as noted on the slide. The SIA IGA that accompanies the minor development that accompanies the final plat is a three-party agreement between the county, Castle Pines Summit LLC, and the Castle Pines Metropolitan District. The purpose of the SIA IGA is to provide for the completion of water sanitary infrastructure, roadway improvements, and grading improvements. Al Peterson with engineering is available if you have specific questions regarding the agreement. This concludes the presentation for the final plat for the Castle Pines Village Filing 14A Second Amendment and the associated SIA IGA. 2 motions are necessary from the board. The first motion would be for the SIA IGA, followed by a second motion for the final plat. Again, this concludes staff's presentation. I am available to take any questions at this time. In addition, Al Peterson with Public Works is present. The applicant representative, Daniel Madison with Manhard Consulting, is otherwise prepared to make a brief presentation.
All right. Any questions from the board?
Trevor, great job, and compliments to planning staff. Jeanette, thank you for the great analysis and then specific reference to the comprehensive master plan. I think that's really helpful. So I have reviewed the packet and the supplementary information. Pending citizen comment, I believe that all my questions have been answered.
I got no questions for staff right now. Let's go to the applicant for the applicant's presentation. Sir, please come forward. Do give us your name once again and tell us your organization you represent.
Good afternoon. My name is Dan Madison. I'm a civil engineer with Manhard Consulting. Office is located at 7600 East Orchard Road. I represent the developer and the applicant for the Castle Pines Village Filing 14A final plat. Thank you, commissioners, for hearing our application today, and thank you to staff for the great staff presentation. I don't have a lot to add, but I'm certainly here to answer any questions you may have. I will add a few points, which is the development certainly meets the density requirement for this area. In fact, we're significantly under the maximum allowed density with the subdivision proposing 17 lots. This is really a continuation of Filing 41. Filing 41 is directly east of this project. And I say it's a continuation because it's the same developer, it's the same home builder, and it will be the very same similar home style that will be built on these lots. I wanted to add that the developer has had outreach to the existing neighborhood throughout the process to really explain to the community what this project is, what the design of this project will be. And I really attribute that public outreach for those neighbors to the fact that through this process, both the preliminary plat process and here at the final plat process, we have not received any public comment to date. We've worked very closely with county staff, with the Castle Pines Metro District, with the Castle Pines HOA, and the South Metro District Fire District to satisfy all the technical design requirements associated with this project. I'm certainly here to answer any questions you might have about our application and appreciate your consideration.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions from the board?
I have none.
Nope, I don't really either. I mean, I can see the bones of what was approved earlier this year, and I really just don't have any questions on the matter. So at this time, I'll go ahead, if no further questions from the board, we'll go ahead.
Mr. Chair, do we want to know if the applicant is accepting all the conditions?
Oh, thank you very much, Commissioner. Sir, you do have 6 conditions associated with this approval of the final plat. Do you accept them?
Yes, we do.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Thank you, Commissioner, for reminding me. At this time, we'll go ahead and open the floor for anyone who'd like to make public comment on either of these 2 matters, either the final plat or the subdivision improvement agreement. Is there anyone who'd like to make public comment at this time? Seeing none in the room, Troy, turning to you, is there anyone online who'd like to make remote comment?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no online comment.
Very good. Thank you, Troy. Turning it back to the board, board, would we like to consider the SIA IGA at this time?
Absolutely. So, are you saying you'd like to take up the second item under 2 first?
Yeah, per
Okay.
staff advisory during the staff presentation, I think staff would prefer we do the SIA IGA first.
Okay. Mr. Chair, if it pleases the board, I have a motion to approve the subdivision improvements agreement, intergovernmental agreement between Castle Pines Summit LLC, whose address is 9360 Teddy Lane, Suite 201, Lone Tree, Colorado 80124, and the Castle Pines Metropolitan District, whose address is 5880 Country Club Drive, Castle Rock, Colorado 80108, and the Douglas County Board of County Commissioners, Douglas County Job Number DV 24-273.
I will second. Any discussion? Motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
SIA IGA is approved. How would we like to consider the final plat?
If it pleases the board, I have a motion to approve the Castle Pines Village Filing 14A Second Amendment final plat because it does meet all of the approval criteria with the 6 conditions as presented. Project file SB 2024-034.
Second. Any discussion? There's a motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the final plat is approved. All right. Congratulations to the applicant. And that concludes our land use meeting agenda items for the day. Moving to the public hearing agenda items, we do begin with established district determinations, Dominion Water and Sanitation District. Project file is MI 2024-026. Katie Carter, Assistant Director of Planning Resources, presenting. And Katie, it looks like we do have a request for a continuance on this.
This is Katie for staff. That is correct. The applicant is requesting it to be continued to January 28th, 2025 at 2:30 p.m.
Very good. Thank you, Katie. Board, how would we like to dispose of this request and continue?
If it pleases the board, I'll make a motion to continue the established district determination, Dominion Water and Sanitation District, project file MI 2024-026 to January 28th, 2025 at 2:30 p.m.
And I'll second. Any need to discuss? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the motion to continue is approved. Our second item in our public hearing is Pinery Plan Development, 31st Amendment, Major Plan Development Amendment. Project file is ZR 2023-022. Mike Pasica. You're not Mike. Very well then. It does look like we have a motion, a request to continue.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Kurt Whitecott in for Mike Pasica today. Yes, the applicant has requested a continuance to January 28th, 2025 at 2:30 p.m.
All right, thank you, Kurt. Board, how would we like to consider this request to continue?
If it pleases the board, I'll make a motion to continue a Pinery Plan Development 31st Amendment, Major Plan Development Amendment, Project File ZR 2023-002 to January 28th, 2025 at 2:30 p.m.
Second. Any need to discuss? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And continuance is approved. Thank you. Thank you, Kurt. All right. Our next item up is resolution summarizing revenues and expenditures and adopting a budget for the County of Douglas for the fiscal year beginning on the first day of January 2025 and ending on the last day of December 2025, backed by popular demand. Budget Director Martha Marshall.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Martha Marshall for Budget Staff. I have a short presentation before we get into the resolution, so let me go ahead and pull that up. And actually, I might need some assistance because the screen has been closed.
Wow.
Before I just start clicking, I think I'm going to wait. Yeah, oops, sorry.
Ooh, the Pinery is going to be a lot of fun, right up till the bitter end on that one, huh? Yeah. That's who our visitors were. Well, that'll be fun when it comes back.
Something to look forward to in 25.
Give us a month to get Kevin up to speed. There we go.
Aha.
Hooray.
Good deal. Okay. The budget before you this afternoon is a culmination of many hours dedicated by staff throughout the county. And so I would like to go ahead and thank everybody for their hard work, because this is a county-wide endeavor that we do. This isn't just the budget staff that does this. We work with everyone in the county to go ahead and put this budget together, because they do represent the work that it does represent the work that they do. We've also had many work sessions with the board, and so I appreciate your commitment to this process too. So, as I said, I have a short presentation before we get into the resolutions. The budget development process is a long one. It begins in May. Budget preps and opens the budget module for departments to start reallocating their base budgets and preparing their new budget requests for next year. Through the summer, departments are finalizing their submissions. During this time, budget is forecasting revenues. We're also working with the appropriate departments, ensuring that we have the other components of the budget taken care of, like the utilities, gas, electric, fleet expenses, fuel maintenance, vehicle replacements, property and liability insurance premiums, comp and benefit pieces, the merit, unemployment, short-term, long-term disability, things like that. The board prioritizes those lights-on type expenses and makes sure that these are covered first before adding any new initiatives or funding new requests. This does include salary and benefits for existing positions. So by the beginning of September, we have a good idea of what's available for new requests or initiatives, and we can start refining the prioritization of these new requests so that we can develop a recommended preliminary budget. And then this is really when we begin meeting with the board. And from here on out, for the most part, we're having weekly meetings with you. So by the time we get to today, to budget adoption, we've met weekly for almost 3 months. We do have 2 statutory deadlines that we must meet. The first one is October 15th, when we have to present a preliminary budget to the board. This gives citizens time to review the preliminary budget before it's adopted on today, or at least by December 15th. So we have met both of those requirements. The board's policy manual provides the county manager with guidance for developing the county's annual budget. The 2025 proposed budget is compliant with all 13 criteria in Management Limitation 3.3, which is financial planning and budget. Some of the key components include the budget does not deviate materially from the board's priorities, risk financial jeopardy, and relies on 2- and 5-year forecasts. The budget provides adequate disclosure of revenues and expenditure assumptions. The budget maintains adequate reserves per county policy and adheres to state and county fiscal laws and policies. The 2025 proposed budget is $608.6 million. The operating portion of this budget is $282 million. This represents a 5.9% increase or $15.8 million in increase over the 24 budget. We gauge our growth based on the state's TABOR calculation, which is population growth plus the CPI, which equals 6.6 for this year. So we're under the growth factor. The budget for one-time initiatives is $229 million. 84% of that, or almost $192 million, is transportation related, road maintenance, congestion mitigation, things like that. Also included in those one-time initiatives is $5 million for the board to use for future infrastructure needs. And we've had some discussions about how that will be utilized, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on. Also included in this budget is $58.4 million of expenditures funded by state and federal sources. The majority of that is in human services. This budget also directs 1.048 mills, or $11 million, of the county's property tax mill levy for tax relief. It will be given through a temporary mill levy credit, which will be on the 2024 tax bills for property taxes collected in 2025. And I should note that Senate Bill 23-108 allows a temporary reduction in property taxes for the purposes of tax relief. This budget also has, county has no debt, so there's no debt payments involved or included in this budget. This budget does not include any new taxes or fees, and all funds are balanced and meet all statutory and county policy requirements. Moving on to changes from the preliminary budget. To stay market competitive, HR recommended adding a high performer merit pool of 0.75%. We will also be maintaining the current copay levels for the GLP-1 weight loss drugs. We added 6 additional positions in the sheriff's office. This include one-time costs for vehicles, equipment, software subscriptions, range fees, ammunition, uniforms, everything it takes to bring those deputies online. We added a vehicle for the new DA investigator that was added for the new courtrooms that were expected for next year. And then we also increased funding in economic development. So now economic development is funded at $1 million. I also wanted to highlight some of the initiatives that the board has that will be continuing into 2025. This includes the link expansion into Highlands Ranch, and Public Works Engineering has gone ahead and redirected $2 million for that project. We're also working on the Crisis Services and Stabilization Project that is being funded with ARPA. We did go ahead, this is actually in the budget, but Search and Rescue requested a command post. So we've scoped out a four-wheel drive Ford 550 for their needs. So I'm sure they'll be very appreciative of that. Also included in the 25 budget is funding for a biochar facility. We have up to $3 million. And I mentioned before that there's $5 million for future infrastructure needs. That $3 million for biochar is coming out of that money. The Sheriff's Office is in the process of piloting a program for therapy dogs at the schools. They're going to pilot that in a middle school next year. We're also working on year-round camping. The funding will come from Parks and Open Space Sales and Use Tax Fund, and it is planned to come online Memorial Day of next year. And then also there is an initiative in the works for Douglas County welcome signs, which will be placed on the roads that enter into Douglas County. And so engineering has earmarked $1 million for that initiative too. Also important to the development of the budget is the board's fiscally conservative guiding principles, which includes avoiding raising taxes and fees, relying upon realistic revenue forecasts, maintaining stable reserves, improving the quality of services provided to our community, budget for 1 year, manage for 2, and plan for 5. And matching our ongoing revenues with our ongoing expenditures. This slide shows how the 2025 proposed budget aligns with the board's priorities. The board's core priorities are the foundation for the development of the budget. These priorities, along with input from the public, inform decisions in the budget. The budget book contains all new requests and projects with explanations. The proposed budget is available online and includes detailed descriptions of all one-time initiatives as well as increases in operating budget for anyone who's interested. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Director. Questions from the board?
Martha, thank you for that presentation. And, headed into my 7th year here, I have to tell you how just appreciative I am to you, Kim, budget staff, and particularly our county manager who's been with us for literally decades. Doug, you started out in budget, and it is deeply meaningful to me just as one commissioner. Our charge legally is the health, safety, and welfare of nearly 400,000 people, and we do that in partnership with our sheriff's office, with firefighting professionals, with all of the business community, nonprofits, faith-based organizations, so many every year to do good things. And a couple of things stand out to me. The first is that we have a balanced budget, no debt, no new taxes. You went over that quickly. You do that every year, but that is rare in government. And I think oftentimes we hear from Americans, why can't government get out of debt, start serving the people and do what we're being asked to do? Well, we do that in Douglas County. Balanced budget, zero debt. That is a really exciting thing to share with the community. And we're not raising taxes. We're returning millions of dollars back to citizens and still accomplishing some of these significant goals. When I think specifically about initiatives going into next year, Chairman, you've been a phenomenal leader when it comes to transportation, your leadership at DRCOG, and this notion of taking Link countywide so that first and last mile can be addressed is just incredibly exciting. I think especially for senior adults who you've been serving through your older adults initiative, people with developmental disabilities, many of whom we saw today. At the touch of an app, you can have a ride to anywhere you need to go. And Lone Tree is celebrating 10 years of that successful program. What a great opportunity to partner. Biochar, taking woody biomass with zero emissions and providing citizens an opportunity to mitigate their densely wooded land areas with a match from the county. Tremendous. And the products from biochar can reduce those permanent chemicals, those PFAS chemicals in the groundwater. I mean, it's just really an exciting and innovative way to move forward. And I believe we're the first county in the state to really advance that forward in a significant way. I'm really thankful that search and rescue is getting some additional funding because we know they not only search for people, they search for evidence, they find bullets, they find all sorts of things. And the character of that organization is not to ask for money. They're volunteers. They pull themselves up by their bootstraps and go out and get the job done. But they're, in many cases, using equipment from the 80s and 90s. So I'm really thankful that as a board, we've looked at them and said, hey, is there a way to improve the funding for search and rescue? The therapy dogs are exciting. I want to thank the sheriff's office, the undersheriff, the entire public safety organization in Douglas County for the commitment to just continue to improve. No county in the state funds law enforcement like Douglas County, and we're honored to have the opportunity to do that. We believe in the work that you do. We have the highest number of school resource officers of any county in the state, and after what happened at STEM, such a big part of my commitment, and I know, George, you share this, is to make sure that school security remains a priority. Those therapy dogs aren't just there because they look cute. They provide a significant public safety component to what's happening in schools. Kids are about 10 times more likely to engage with an SRO when there is a friendly pet with them. That provides that relational insight the SRO needs in order to provide safety to that school community. So I'm really thankful for the piloting that's going on there. I had an extensive conversation over the course of this year, not only with our Wildfire Action Collaborative, but with the sheriff, his team, and the director, our new director of emergency management, Mike Alexander, around the expansion of Helitack. Forgive the superlatives, but again, we have the only dedicated Helitack team in the entire state from a county perspective. This year, we've put out 22 fires, and just in the county, and then 9 fires outside of the county. Any one of them could have been catastrophic, and no one will ever hear about them unless, Ellis, you decide to report on them. But that's the good news you'll never hear, because any one of those could have been deadly, but they got put out hard, heavy, and fast, as my late, great colleague Roger Partridge used to say. I have been persuaded that we now have year-round Helitack in a way that is fiscally conservative. And again, I credit Doug DeBoard and our sheriff for really thinking through that in a way that is responsible to our conservative values. But if we had a dry November or a dry January and another Marshall fire, when the helicopter isn't here, we know that we can have one here pretty quickly. And emergency management is monitoring that on a daily basis. So lots of great things, and just really thankful for the work that you put into bringing this to us. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Martha, as you appropriately pointed out, we began the budget process all the way back in May. We started seeing items for consideration brought to the board starting in September. We've gone back and forth on many, many items here until we came to this final proposed budget. So, as a matter of fact, we went through so many things, I had to take a vacation halfway through. So, I'm of course, very impressed with your work, very impressed with the work of your team in bringing it to the board in a way that's easily digestible. I don't have any questions for you at this time. So, let's go ahead and open the floor for any citizen comment on this resolution for the proposed budget for Douglas County, Colorado. Is there anyone who would like to make any comments? Man, you're not a citizen, you're the sheriff. Well, Sheriff, you are well known to the board, but please do, once again, introduce yourself for anyone who might be monitoring online.
Darren Darren Weekly, Sheriff of Douglas County. I just wanted to thank the board for moving forward with this budget. Douglas County is going to be safer because of you and the budget request that you have approved. In the 2 years that I have been the sheriff, I have restructured that entire organization. I have put more resources on the front line where they belong, but there's more work to do. And I certainly appreciate the collaboration with the BOCC and helping make Douglas County safer. And I want to thank both of you gentlemen for doing that.
Well, thank you, Sheriff. Commissioner.
Well, I would just echo that sentiment. I mean, the only way to keep Douglas County safe is through partnership, and nobody knows public safety better than you, Under Sheriff Walcher and your team. So it is an honor to be able to partner. We always defer to your expertise and share that significant legal responsibility to keep people safe. So thank you for the great partnership.
You do great, Sheriff. You know it.
Thank you, sir.
I try to tell it to you often. Is there anyone else who would like to give public comment on the proposed budget at this time? I am seeing none in the room. Troy, turning to you, is there anyone online who would like to give any remote comments on the proposed budget resolution?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no online comment.
All right, thank you very much, Troy. Bringing it back to the board, how would we like to dispose of this resolution for the proposed budget?
Mr. Chair, if it pleases the board, I do have a motion to approve a resolution summarizing revenue and expenditures and adopting a budget for the County of Douglas for the fiscal year beginning on the first day of January 2025 and ending on the last day of December 2025.
Thank you, Commissioner. Martha, I'm so sorry you shut down your presentation. I was going to have you go back a couple slides, but it's okay. Don't worry about it. I would hearken everyone's attention to the slide that showed the fact that we expend over 40% of this budget on transportation. And then in the next pie slice over, it explained how we expend over 35% of this budget on public safety. If we go to the next slide over, Martha very rightly showed us that we're not raising taxes, we're not raising fees. Hey, thank you, Martha. Appreciate that.
It was easy.
I appreciate that. I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud that we're able to put together this kind of budget. When Commissioner Layden and I travel around the state, we speak to our colleagues at other counties. There are counties that really do struggle to get this kind of distribution. They cannot fund their roads. They cannot adequately fund public safety, even though they be in remote areas. And you don't think of remote rural areas, or even, got to remember, we're Colorado, we have wilderness counties. They don't believe they can adequately fund their public safety. Thank you, Sheriff, for your comments. I very much appreciate that, because I want to assure the people of Douglas County, we are funding transportation here in this county, and we are funding public safety in this county. We are always on the lookout for what we could be doing or should be doing better, but we believe that this, I believe, and I hope we believe, this budget adequately achieves these major scores. And then I draw everyone's attention to the other pie slices, because despite building our roads, attending to the transportation needs of the people of Douglas County, despite attending to the public safety needs of the people of Douglas County, we can still do everything else. So I think this is a great budget. I heartily endorse it, and it is my honor and privilege to provide a second. Is there any further discussion?
I won't belabor it, but you've heard me say many times, when you invest in safety and a county has a reputation for safety, there's a demand for housing. And when the housing appreciates, that's frankly how we get paid. Everybody asks us, how is Douglas County so rich? Well, I think it starts with a commitment to public safety and then, of course, economic development. But you don't get economic development like a $20 billion company like Saffron locating here unless those executives think Douglas County is safe. So there's a little magic in our secret sauce that isn't that secret. And I hope other governments throughout our state continue to think about public safety as a key priority. But it's really an honor to serve with you, sir, and I share your perspective.
Hey, man, this is the job we don't have to do, we don't want to do, but we get to do. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you very much, Commissioner, for that, those interesting discussion points. At this time, we do have a motion. We do have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And our resolution, our budget resolution has been adopted. Turning next to resolution appropriating funds for the County of Douglas, Colorado for the fiscal year 2025. Once again, Martha Marshall.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This second resolution is going ahead and appropriating funds for the budget that we just adopted.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Any questions from the board for Martha?
No, and I believe we can take up all of these resolutions consecutively, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Chair, if it pleases the board, I do have a motion to approve a resolution appropriating funds for the County of Douglas, Colorado for the fiscal year 2025.
And I will second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That resolution is adopted. Next is a resolution levying general property taxes for the year 2024 to help defray the costs of government for the County of Douglas, Colorado for the 2025 fiscal year. Budget Director Marshall.
This resolution is now levying taxes to support the budget that we just adopted and the appropriation.
Questions for the Budget Director? I have no questions. How would the board like to dispose of this resolution?
Mr. Chair, I have a motion to approve a resolution levying general property taxes for the year 2024 to help defray the costs of government for the County of Douglas, Colorado for the 2025 fiscal year.
I will second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The resolution is adopted. Next is a resolution summarizing revenues and expenditures and adopting a budget for the Douglas County Law Enforcement Authority for the fiscal year beginning on the first day of January 2025 and ending on the last day of December 2025. Director Marshall.
This resolution is specifically for the Law Enforcement Authority. It is a separate legal entity from the county, and so we need to go through the same process with them. And this is adopting a budget for the Law Enforcement Authority.
Very good, thank you. Questions for the Budget Director? Seeing none, how would the board like to dispose with this resolution?
I have a motion to approve a resolution summarizing revenues and expenditures and adopting a budget for the Douglas County Law Enforcement Authority for the fiscal year beginning on the first day of January 2025 and ending on the last day of December 2025.
Second, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Resolution adopted. Our next is a resolution appropriating funds for the Douglas County Law Enforcement Authority for fiscal year 2025 in accordance with the budget we had just approved. Director Marshall.
This resolution, again, is appropriating funds for the budget that we just adopted. And this is, again, specifically for the Douglas County Law Enforcement Authority.
Questions for Martha? Seeing none, how would the board like to dispose of this resolution?
I have a motion to approve a resolution appropriating funds for the Douglas County Law Enforcement Authority for the fiscal year 2025.
I will second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Resolution adopted. And then finally, resolution levying general property taxes for the year 2024 to help defray the costs of government for the Douglas County Law Enforcement Authority for the 2025 fiscal year. Director Marshall.
This resolution is levying property taxes for the Law Enforcement Authority to support the adopted budget and the appropriation.
Thank you, Director. Any questions for Martha? Martha, I'm just going to say it for the record, just in case there's anybody monitoring along and they're watching us burning through these resolutions. Commissioner Layden, I've been doing this for 4 years now. Commissioner, you've been doing this for 6. But it is the fact that if people go to their property tax statement next January, next February, they will see the Douglas County LEO. That is LEA, thank you, ma'am, that it's on its own separate line. And that is for the purposes of this resolution.
Right. And the Law Enforcement Authority is only for unincorporated properties within Douglas County.
And thank you. Excellent, excellent clarification there. That's my only question. Therefore, how would the board like to dispose of this resolution?
Mr. Chair, if it pleases the board, I do have a motion to approve a resolution levying general property taxes for the year 2024 to help defray the costs of government for the Douglas County Law Enforcement Authority for the 2025 fiscal year.
Second, any need for discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the resolution is approved. Okay. Wow, that's a bit of an afternoon's worth of work. That is the last item on our agenda for land use and public hearing. The next land use and public hearing will be held on Tuesday, December 17th, 2024 at 2:30 p.m. Unless there's objection, we are adjourned.